not every day that you get to wake up and play a brand new Sega Genesis game. While I lived through the 16-bit era and remember the joy of ripping off the plastic from a box of a new game that my mom bought at Toys R Us, that specific era is long in the past now. We're firmly in the age of digital releases for new-aged consoles. A tremendous number of games have been built to evoke that old-school feeling, but not many of them are designed around the limitations of ancient hardware. Earthion is different. Created by Ancient Corp, a company that will be famous to any bygone Sega fan, Earthion is an homage and continuation of old-school design that was built with the Genesis in mind. Headed up by a team of developers, with Yuzo Koshiro being the most famous, Earthion feels like a lost sequel to Gradius or R-Type. This is a challenging, horizontal scrolling shooter that puts an emphasis on spectacle while having a high skill ceiling. If you can master its quirks, it's entirely possible to finish the game without dying or even getting hit. I'm not that good, but I saw my skill progressing with each subsequent playthrough I did for this review. The basic setup for Earthion takes place at some point in humanity's future. Earth's resources are depleted, and people have fled the planet for Mars. During their pilgrimage, hostile invaders attack Earth, and mankind is forced to retaliate. Players assume the role of researcher Azusa Takanashi, piloting a state-of-the-art ship known as the YK-2A. They'll travel through 8 stages and face off against increasingly larger alien spacecraft, all while rocking out to the electric tunes of Yuzo Koshiro. Sounds like a recipe for a modern-day classic. As I began playing the game, I was struck by how faithful things were to the old-school design philosophy of the Genesis. To be transparent, I didn't know much about Earthion before I asked for a review code. I thought it was neat that Yuzo Koshiro was making a new game, and I'm always down to hear some new tunes from him. It was only after playing the game and reading over some of the press material that I understood the gimmick. Earthion was actually developed for the Sega Genesis. Now, this isn't some long-lost game, mind you. Ancient Corporation got back together to create one last hurrah for the now 37-year-old piece of hardware. Their design philosophy and goals were to give players an experience exactly like the ones from their youths. Any advancements in design would come from pushing the Genesis well past its breaking point, and from the general developments that have been made in video games over the last 3 decades. Earthion doesn't dramatically redefine what is possible with shmups, but it's one of the best examples of them around. It's actually a bit hard to talk about anything specific because shmups are not my forte. I've played the classics and I have a fondness for Ikaruga, but I wasn't skilled enough as a child to make much progress in shmups. It was only with the 360 where Cave's legendary catalog started to get ported that my skill began to develop. I've since gone back and played quite a few of those classics, but one thing that stuck out to me is how hardware often clashed with specific challenges. Gradius 3, for instance, is a classic SNES shooter, but it runs at maybe 20 FPS. Knowing that Earthion is actually a Genesis game makes it all the more impressive how smoothly it runs. You'd initially think that is because this is a native PC port, but I'm not so convinced. When you boot up the game, you're given incredibly limited options for how to tweak things. I naively thought the game was stuck with a CRT filter, but it turns out that this is a feature of the emulator used here. At its core, I believe Earthion is running a Genesis ROM with some customizable options for pixel scaling, overlays, and controller remapping. You could spot little bits of slowdown during intense explosions, but otherwise this is the Genesis experience through and through. The one quirk that Earthion has with its gameplay is an upgrade system, which actually isn't explained all that well. Much like R-Type, you have sub-weapons you could swap between to tackle specific challenges ahead of you. While they give the combat its own specific flair, and I'm very fond of the pyro cannon, you could find what the game calls an adaptation pod in each level that, when carried to the end, will allow you to upgrade your ship. You have the choice between increasing your shields and firepower, adding a sub-weapon, upgrading the capability of your sub-weapon, or adding an extra life. By default, Earthion gives players 3 lives and 3 continues to finish its campaign, which is actually pretty damn hard. You can tweak that to 6 lives, but on normal, the game doesn't mess around. Through upgrades, however, Earthion feels like a fusion of old school and new school. It's not so convoluted as to have skill trees or RPG mechanics, but it's a major boon to be able to increase your shields. At first, I played the game like normal and quickly found myself chewing through lives by level 5. When I understood the upgrade system, I was able to finish normal mode using only a single continue. Moving up the difficulty, I was quickly humbled again, but that upgrade system is great. If you're someone that wants more weapons, go for it. If you need the extra health, it's an option. As for everything else, though, I'm at a loss for words. Earthion is great, and I'm especially fond of the opening set piece in level 4, but this is basically just another old school shooter. I don't think we've seen anything this good in a while, but there are indie games that have catered to the shmup crowd for years now. You can even find most of Cave's library on Steam, which includes such classics as Death Smiles, Akai Katana, and Mushishi Misama. The forthcoming Genesis release of Earthion sounds fantastic and should prove to be the most demanding game on the console, but that's within the context of the Genesis library. As a PC game, this is simply another throwback gem. At least the soundtrack rips. I spent a good bit of time in the sound test menu simply listening to the tunes and reminiscing about the olden days. Yuzo Koshiro is in top form here and has created another OST that is bound to be remembered for decades to come. I think it complements Earthion well, and is maybe part of the reason why I enjoyed the game so much. That might sound like faint praise, but I'll absolutely play an otherwise decent game if it has an outstanding score. That's where I'm at with Earthion. I don't have anything too deep to express about the game, but I was constantly engaged when playing it. I continued despite numerous failures because I was gripped by its decidedly old-school design. It's also just plain cool to say you got to play a new Yuzo Koshiro game in 2025. As I said in the beginning, it's not often that you can make that statement anymore, so I'll treasure the opportunities given to me. I would suggest everyone else do the same.